The funny thing is, actually...
Hello and welcome to this fun time of karaoke in Abington. 1905 hours and we're going to sing. That's okay, I want to have this. Makes me feel like Casey Kasem.
So when are they going to
Casey Kasem.
while you're in the shower? It's my time to appoint someone else. When are they going to appoint someone else? Yeah. Do we vote on that?
No, the moderator appoints someone. Do we have anybody like with an intro? Oh, give that to him.
I tried to squeeze you.
Should we slide it out?
I don't have time in the morning to do this.
Well, no, because then you won't have a holder for the person that takes
We
the.
don't have the person right now.
Huh?
I was wrong.
Now, in memoriam,
I
you
tried.
all of a sudden dig a hole.
Fifth one,
Look,
giving us
we may have somebody dying soon. We should replace the grave.
Cindy? Chad, you have yours?
I have.
all of those. Thanks.
Are we all set?
Oh, we're gonna get Barbara a new name tag.
Yes. Great. It is the December 3rd Finance Committee meeting. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Let's see if that's correct.
This is a couple things on the agenda tonight. First is any pending remaining issues. This is probably, probably definitely the last time we're going to meet for this year. So I don't know if there's anything that we need to wrap up for that.
I'm not bringing you anything at the
Great.
moment.
No Christmas Eve meeting?
The only thing I was going to mention is that we are looking at, and there's no reason to have a special town meeting until at least April. And that the typical capital plan that we've been doing historically in the fall would be released as part of either as part of the annual town meeting or a special town meeting before the annual town meeting, whatever the case is. That's a format that we will all decide on at that point. So, and on Monday night coming up, on the selectmen's agenda, will be a discussion on the financing of the ladder truck. Whether or not they're prepared to make a decision as to what they would like to pursue in terms of the debt exclusion or capital exclusion, or I don't believe they're going to determine that we just want to resolve and look at the current debt budget without at least asking the public.
So it hasn't been ordered
I
yet,
don't
though.
believe that's going to be the conclusion, but I don't know. They obviously haven't discussed it. They haven't.
Does that mean the truck isn't even ordered yet?
Well, it's ordered, yeah,
Oh, good.
because it's been authorized.
Okay.
You are talking about 7 actually, maybe my math's off. You are looking at probably the end of April.
Okay.
So, the buying of one way or the other.
Just formalities, I suppose. So to Rick through you, what is the certified free cash?
The exact dollar number, it's about $780,000. I can resend that. I know everybody's seen it a few times. It's possible it's in my folder. I believe it's about $780,000. General fund.
How much again? 100 and?
$780,000. I don't have it on me, but again, I'm happy to send the DOR notice around again through Chairman and Deb if you want.
Great. Yeah, you send that, I'll forward that out to everybody.
It's 768 or 786, it's one of those.
With a chunk of it committed, hopefully, to go back into
Well, that's been the
stabilization.
history of the
Yeah.
truck, right.
I think,
Are you thinking ladder truck?
no, not at all, actually. I think that we have an obligation, since we had talked before at the last meeting, when we were talking about the budget, is to do just that, is to put it back into stabilization. I know many of us had voted in favor in support of that, predicated upon returning those funds to stabilization.
We had taken funds out.
That was to close the
Yes.
gap.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. What,
Do you remember that amount, Sean?
Off the top of my head, I don't, but I believe I have it here. So you can continue on, hold up, and I will see.
Thank you.
so we'll move into the FY16 budget talks. What are we hearing from the state? I'm already seeing rumblings of bad news.
Yeah, well, FY16 is not clear at all. I think we were all a little bit, I don't want to say surprised, but the trend wasn't looking good for FY15 elections, but the I guess the publicity put out there by the Patrick administration and the attempt to seek to make local aid cuts mid-year, which, as we know, the legislature, the speaker put the kibosh on that was a little bit disheartening in terms of FY16. Right now, we begin the budget process considering level local aid. I mean, that's a fairly natural way to begin a process. And right now, if you put the fiscal policy people at Mass Municipal on the stand and said, we're going to at least get level local aid next year, nobody's going to tell you, give you a good answer. Now again, it's what is it? It's December. By April, May, maybe the picture maybe it will be clear. No question about that. So, but it's always murky. But this is even murkier than it has been in the last half dozen years at least. So it's not encouraging for a budget process. It's dependent upon so.
But as we get into January and February, we'll be basing it off of level.
Yes, I mean, that's just from pure revenue estimation right now, I mean, that's what we're beginning with, as well as, a fairly modest new growth figure, $200,000 range, which is kind of an average over so many years. And presumably that will increase as we get closer to the end of the budget process. But right now, you have to start somewhere, so you have to start with some basic formula. And, it's not rocket science. You start with thinking in terms of level state aid, and again, you use averages for initial revenue estimates until you get more information. So it's always interesting. You feel like you just started one fiscal year and you're already in the planning stages for the next one.
So you're not in any points of like looking at cutting any budgets or anything at this point?
In the current fiscal year.
For the no.
For next
Right.
fiscal.
It's premature. It's premature.
That's what I'm saying. You're not even at the point where you'd say, "Oh, we need to shave off here," or you're not even because
we've just gone through the part where we've accepted the budget requests.
That's what I'm handing out now.
Okay, yeah.
So if we want to jump, we can jump right into that.
Yeah, there were two requests essentially. One is the typical, give us a level services budget, and two, give us a budget request that's,
On top.
It's more, I'm sorry?
That's on top of that.
Yes, and there's value to both, obviously. So, and of course, until just recently, there was certainly no reason to believe that that state aid next year could be in jeopardy. So we weren't anticipating cuts to local aid for FY16 in light of that. So we've just internally gone through the process of meeting with the various departments, compiling the information and having internal discussions. So the goal is to produce the charter says that I'm supposed to transmit to the Finance Committee a budget proposal by January 15th. And then I'm supposed to transmit that to the selectmen 30 days in advance. It doesn't make any sense to me to transmit anything that just doesn't go to everybody. So my goal is by December 15th to get a budget document out to all parties. But there's no way that can be a balanced budget document as of right now. There's just no way that can happen. So I would say, that's the stage we're at. We're still in the wish list stage of the budget process. And some of the presumptions, and we'll get to this, in several weeks. So when that's transmitted, it'll be outlined for you. You have to make certain estimates regarding health insurance when you really don't have good data yet. Pension, when you don't have the best data yet. So these are big ticket items that you have to be a little bit conservative up front. And it's just the nature of the beast. You're conservative on both expenditures and conservative on revenue and projections, so it can't help but look bad at this stage of the game. My hope is that it doesn't look that bad mid-game. And in light of, again, the recent happenings on Beacon Hill, the opportunity to achieve a local aid next year is daunting right now, at least, so.
One more. So I'm just going to back you up and say, so, because you asked me during this year, when I asked if there was, you were looking at any cuts, are you looking at cuts?
No.
Okay.
No. Especially in light, if, had there been, had the legislature allowed the governor to make maybe a nice, local aid cuts, that would have perhaps been a game changer.
Right, but we're beyond
That's
that.
not the case. That's not the case.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear so that there's
I mean,
no,
that doesn't mean that, towards the end of the year, either whether it's selectmen or finance committee or town meeting, we'll be looking to move money around
Right.
existing budgets, from, expenses to salaries. But that's within the existing budget allocation.
It's not out of the norm.
That's right. So, but in terms of any just cuts, that's not likely.
okay. Thank you.
I want to keep going on the scheduling for the 16 budget. So I gave everybody an email. This was from September. I come in and met with Rick and his team, and we talked about scheduling for the reviews on the budget. And we briefly talked in some of the meetings about a Saturday meeting, which in the past had been done with just the schools. It wasn't done this past year. I think the year before that was the only one that I've done. And it was a half a day on Saturday to review the school budget and get their presentation. So what we talked about was trying to do more of those on Saturday. So this outlines in the paragraph below all the numbers what we propose to do on that Saturday on the 28th.
And of course, it's early to be scheduling, but to the extent that I know that the selectmen are interested in being involved in that discussion. So lead time is good, but we don't have to pick the date right now, but obviously you want to get beyond the holiday weekend after that, and so 28 makes sense. It puts us in plenty of, if there's the opportunity to actually hold an April town meeting and get the job done, and a lot of that's dependent upon factors that aren't within our control right now. That would keep us on that schedule. And regardless of whether or not if we end up in a hurry up and wait game, you still have to go through that process anyway, so doing it on the earlier side makes sense. And I my own experience, and I know people, like you said, I didn't know that historically the finance committee had done that with the school. People you can get a lot done on a Saturday, push the major departments out of the way, so you're not meeting 2 nights a week, week after week after week, when, you come home from work, you're tired, and then you have to come to a finance committee meeting, and no one's as sharp as they'd like to be at that point. And so, seemed like people thought it was a good idea. So the 28th is what we put out there, but I think over some period of time, if you could check your schedules and make sure that might work for you, before we can seek another date approximate to that.
Thoughts?
And just my editorial opinion that I had shared with you previously, I'm personally not a fan of doing all those budgets in one day. I think there's a lot more value, quite frankly, in doing a couple over the course of the week. So the reason why I suggest that is because there is a lot of detail that we provide to each of those departments, regardless of how fresh we may appear. And to absorb that level of detail, the school in and of itself is an amazing amount of data. And it takes the initial presentation and then subsequent weeks of discussion to absorb it. So now to compound that and not give fair attention, my opinion, of course, is not give fair attention to those other departments. Not that I am enthused about weeks after weeks after weeks, but it was what we signed up for here, quite honestly. We signed up to be pensive, we signed up to be contemplative, and we signed up to do that level of annoyance to town management. But it just,
You're doing your job, I'll give you credit.
I will defer to the belief in stated efficacy, but I personally do understand and do know that I'm going to hear the third department and I'm not going to give it fair due, nor am I going to be as contemplated as necessary to be as granular in those line items. And it does put a bigger burden, quite frankly, on the entire group, because you're going to get a stack of information that you will be required to go forward, review, kind of have a quiz, and we'll start having discussions, and we may or may not miss something. That's just, again, my opinion.
And maybe there's a middle ground too. I mean, you know, I don't think anybody's closed-minded to try and find something that everybody feels makes the best use of everybody's time. If it, so, but
Just as a quick, almost but not quite counterpoint, I haven't done the one day in the past. Last year was my first year on. Last year it was very stretched out over multiple weeks. Some of the things we went through at the beginning kind of got lost in being far removed from them by the time we got to the overall end of the process. So I think there is definitely give and take between the two.
But I guess to that point, Matt, continuing with that, February 20th, I think is still early. You know, I will defer to the man who has years of managing communities, but I'm fairly confident with the governor-elect is not going to have a budget, nor are they going to have an appropriate level of availability for us. And historically, given D versus an R, pretty confident the R will have it done by March, but that's just my opinion. I don't think you're going to see a budget and numbers available to us until the end of May, early June.
I agree with your assessment of that. And in fairness, regardless of whether I agree with that, I know one of the goals the selectmen had discussed is to try to advance the budget process, not just to comply with the charter, but also to, if possible, try to actually hold an April town meeting. But the dynamics, again, factors outside of our control contribute to what everybody has to accomplish here. So.
Just adding my 2 cents as far as a Saturday meeting. I don't mind meeting on a Saturday. I myself,
We signed up for lunch at your house, just so you know.
would prefer to only do the schools in one day. You know, I wouldn't want more than the school department's budget
School is a
in
lot.
either, whether it's one night or one Saturday, whatever. It's a really large budget. It's a lot of information. If we tried to do, for myself anyways, if I tried to listen to 2 budgets, the school budget and then a subsequent budget from, say, the fire department, the fire department's, I'm going to be lost. Yeah, he will not have my attention by the time he starts speaking, because I find by the time we get to the end of the school budget, that's the amount of time. But, like Rick was saying, a happy medium. I wouldn't be opposed to having 2 departments like fire and police on a Saturday morning, because they are bigger departments that have, you know, it's a larger budget, say, for the police department than it is for the library.
What if it was more than fire and police on a Saturday? What if it was like, not schools, but 5 departments?
I think that's a lot. Myself, I think fire and police because they're bigger departments.
Yeah.
Or fire and highway, you know, I don't know. I do agree with Sean, 'cause just myself personally, it all becomes Charlie Brown talk after a few hours, you know, like 3 hours in.
I think I'm fearful of multiple Saturdays.
I am too.
A Saturday
I am
is fine.
absolutely-
I don't want to get in the habit of multiple Saturdays. And
I wouldn't be opposed to 2 Saturdays. Something for the school and maybe, so that we don't have to do
I see
until
reactions from
midnight.
others.
When did Wednesday become Saturday?
Yeah.
That's another weird piece.
I mean, if we're trying to fit 2 departments in is what I'm saying. Bigger
I will
departments.
be as attentive as I possibly am, and as annoying as I possibly could be, regardless of when the hearing will be.
That's a given.
Just being honest.
Do you have some?
Yeah, I like what Barbara has to say. If we have to do anything on a Saturday, a half a day. Saturday, you know, maybe a half, a 9 to 12, and have either schools, but I think we managed the last time to keep schools to, we got the information we wanted. We didn't need all of the extraneous stuff that goes on usually on a Saturday with the school department. So if we can concentrate just on their budget, we don't need all the extra whatever. But at the same point, too many budgets at one time you do, after a while, you just, like Barbara said, Charlie Brown talk.
I think the extras, the one time that I've gone through that Saturday meeting had huge value. I don't know that it will, personally, for me, the second time that I go through it, but the people that haven't been through
Right,
it.
I definitely think it's,
And maybe we'll have 2 new members by then if we're lucky.
Possibly. Or they can sit separately with, they've been invited to do that if they want to hear that other piece and that. Because I know the first times I sat there, it was handout after handout
Yep.
being read to me verbatim, and then I'll pass it back, and it didn't really do anything for me as far as what I thought their budget process was. But that's just me personally.
So I think there will
I
be
mean,
more,
I mean, there's plenty
we'll
of
talk
time
about
to
the
think
Saturdays
about it,
again in
but-
January then.
And I know some of the issues that were raised is, I mean, for instance, when you're meeting every week the same night, that's one thing, but when you start trying to meet more than one night a week, you have different, just people have commitments, family issues, and some people can make some people can't make, and so people aren't, the value of trying to do to try to do, I say, 2 or 3 long sessions is that, people are scheduling a couple dates, and you can work around those, but to try to work around a lot of dates throughout the entire budget process. I mean, I'm gonna be here anyway, it's really, it's not, I don't wanna say it's irrelevant to me. It's relevant to me in that I think it's just, I believe it's easy, especially, part of my goal too is to try to accommodate the selectmen's wish to be involved a little bit more than they've been historically in the budget process. And to try and do that in less meetings has some value, so, so again, there's no decision that has to be made soon, but at least a conversation you can have as time goes on here.
Like
And as was pointed out, if it becomes incredibly obvious that there isn't going to be any meaningful budget proposal by the new administration, February 28th may not have any meaning at all. So it's waiting on it, so.
I think we should target to meet again sometime after the 15th of January. And at that point, we can look at, I'm getting the message from everybody. I think that Saturdays are not what they want. So I don't think there isn't a benefit if people aren't going to retain the info to pile that info on a Saturday. So I personally, I liked it, but
Yeah.
it's a committee of 7 right now.
It's the will of the
Yeah.
audience, it's that simple. You say, I'm the only one getting paid here. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna be here anyway. It's what's best for participation.
Let's plan to meet after the 15th, and we'll look at what we can do to try and keep it on one night a week. Maybe there are longer nights on that one night a week. Get more departments in on those one nights. And so we'll meet then and discuss. I'll come up with what I think would be ideal and run it by you, and then we can review it after the 15th. You do laugh at my paper calendar.
1994
This
called
is
the
my
Lumber
black
Calendar.
I hate pulling out my phone.
2015.
So that, if we could target January 21st. And at that point, we'll get from you, I'm assuming it's going to be binders again this year,
Yes.
the same format, and then the request we've talked about going forward is just all the detail going forward when there's a change, just a new printout. We hate trees.
Yeah, I know, but you gotta kill them, it's a budget process. It's just, you just can't look at a computer that, you have to have.
Yeah, the ability to flip back and
You
forth
just have to, yeah.
between version 1 and version 7.
Yeah, I know
Right,
that-
Seven.
I know there was a question last year about what, the KVS system that puts out a lot of different formats that you ask for. So we're gonna put it on you probably, and make sure you're happy with, and you can take the heat from the rest of your committee if they're not happy with whatever that format, the detail in that format, so.
Everybody tell me what format you want it in.
So, I mean, and we'll,
Was there a year that worked for everybody, the format that it was in?
I'm a fan of digital more than I am of paper.
Can we have one digital copy as well?
Well, no, just, if we can put it into a secured file source, some cloud source like a Dropbox folder, that would make it easier, because we can access it, as obviously Matt and I, sitting here with our iPads, like to look at the data. And as Rick can appreciate, because it's digital, I can quickly find information to make his life miserable. Let's work with friends. But
I see the value in the digital and the paper, like technology, but the ability to flip for me is great, and write my notes
Write
on it.
notes.
is there a phone ringing? 1985 is calling.
So
I'm looking to
They want me back.
Be back to you up a
So-
decade further than I did.
If anybody has thoughts on the format, I get it digital, just let me know before then, and we can work together and make sure that comes in the format you want. So that wraps up that portion, unless there's more questions on it. And then we'll jump into the next portion, which everybody knows at this point, I'm sure. Rick Franny has resigned. Very sad to see Rick not here. He's a huge loss to the committee. I think the knowledge that he brought on the town is irreplaceable.
Absolutely.
And now we need to divvy up his liaison assignments. So Rick had,
He was in today, by the way.
was he?
Asked me to express my condolences, but to wish you all a good evening.
I thought he'd be
He
in
had
the
a little
audience.
grin on his face when he said that.
So as we're getting into the budget preparations, I think it's really important to start reaching out to the departments that you're a liaison for. Get their thoughts. If they want to quickly get a tour before we get into budgets, we can do that. But find out what's going on in their lives, that you can help them if there's any questions about what we need or want to see.
And if, never mind.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm positive.
Okay. So the first department that Rick had, and he was the primary liaison, was the accountant, treasurer collector, and the assessor. Who would like to take that role?
Who's the secondary, do you know?
I didn't write
Matt.
that down.
Because
Matt,
Oh,
Licky.
the secondaries might just
Just move them over?
move them over,
You want to move over?
Take it.
All right.
and then it just kind of keeps everything.
So
Pretty
your
simple.
primary, Liggy, secondary. You got that? Yep.
Licky.
Liggy. The next would be the town clerk. Who was the secondary?
Matt.
How many things is he the primary on?
He's the primary veterans agent next. And then Barbara is second to.
I'll take the veterans.
So
Barbara is second to the veterans agent.
So town clerk, do you want to be primary on that?
Yep.
And then we would need a second.
I'll be second with Matt.
Okay.
Actually, I will fill in wherever Matt needs help with those, because you have a,
Veterans agent,
I'll take the primary on that.
right? And he was the second on highway. I'll take that.
You will?
Sure. I get to drive an excavator.
Actually, you don't get to drive next week. That's not possible.
I thought that was part of it.
No,
So that wraps that up then. And that's it. Oh, minutes. And I didn't get the mail.
I'd like to motion to approve the minutes of September 10th, 2014.
We're in 8:20 first, please, in order.
Well, someone else can do that because I was excused.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Yes, she was.
I'll second.
Oh, you were, I'm sorry, get that.
So we're talking about 8:20 now?
initial.
8:20, yes.
Okay. So we have the minutes from August 20th. A motion, and I thought I heard a second.
I second.
Great.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed it. Who was the,
Sean,
thank you.
Sean.
And who seconded?
me.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to,
We haven't voted on that one yet.
oh, I thought I saw him raising his hands.
Well, the answer.
You want to get that motion out there.
He was doing this.
Yeah,
See?
it's good enough for the NFL.
Really?
Yep.
Discussion? Any more discussion, Matt?
Nope. I'm done.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You weren't here for it anyways.
Sean and Rebecca.
Okay.
Opposed? Abstained? The minutes of September 10th, 2014.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of September 10th, 2014.
Second.
discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Great.
Abstained.
Abstained?
Yeah.
I'm not here.
I wasn't there either.
I had to abstain on the first one.
That's it. Any other motions? Any other business? How about a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Discussion?
We can't discuss that motion. In favor?
Cindy, you're gonna have to be quicker on that. Rick was pretty quick, Rick was like,
It was always between you and Rick, so I'll give you the first one.
That's just other stuff.
you're reading funny stuff?
No, so I'm looking in the mirror. That's what I'm doing.
Were there any